to the first of our exclusive interviews on the show. We are with Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum. I'm sure you know him as an MPP presidential flagbearer aspirant and former Minister for Education. And you know the stories we heard when he was deputy and also when he became Education Minister, all the things he's done today. We'll be exploring his vision, leadership priorities, and what differentiates him in the party's race, and also pick his mind on the WASI and matters arising and the decisions of government to really deal with what's coming, and even how do we move on from where we are in terms of the performance in the WASI. Dr. Adutwum, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Oh, Paul as well.
Yes.
How's the campaign going?
Very well. Very well. I did phase one Ashanti. I'm going back. God willing, I'll be on the grounds beginning Thursday to do my phase 2 of Ashanti region. Okay.
All right. If you say very well, how do you define the very well?
Very well is all about your message to the delegates. And you can see whether the message resonates with them, it doesn't resonate with them. It goes beyond the choboy. It comes down to when you know that you have people in the audience who are weeping because you shared your life experience. Shared with them where I began. And I always jokingly say, you see my picture there? And they say, we see that picture. And I say, you probably see me on TV. Yeah, we see you on TV. You always see me in suit and tie, the signature red tie. And they say, yeah, we always see that. And I say, some of you may think I'm a dadaba. See, I'm from some rich family. I grew up on a cocoa farm, especially when you're dealing with cocoa growing areas in Ashanti and Ahafo and all those places. The majority of the delegates in the audience are cocoa farmers. So when I tell my story growing up on a cocoa farm, born to a cocoa farmer, mother and father, and the trajectory, the journey of the cocoa farmers in this country, from Ashanti to Asante Achem, towns like Krofa, then to Ahafo, towns like Chebidi, Semfifre. These are towns that the average person may not have heard of. Yeah. But these were cocoa farmlands. From there, you talk about the trajectory from Ahafo. Then people from Goso and Akrodi and all these people then move on to central region, Chichiriere, Techikrom. They move on to Wase Kropon, and all these places became cocoa lands. This were, some of them were virgin forests, but they were driven by the opportunity to create a better life for themselves and for their children. So I happen to be one of those whose parents were in this movement, and I'll say movement because they changed the history of this country. You see, uneducated group of people who became middle class and upper middle class in this country. Why did they do it? Individual prosperity. They knew that they were responding to a stimuli created by the government. When you hear of the Guggisberg economy, and people talk about Gordon Guggisberg did such a fantastic job, some will even compare him to some president that we have after independence, and he praises on him, they forget. Guggisberg's economy, majority of the funds that were coming for the economy of cocoa farmers. Uneducated group of people who decided to change their fortunes by stopping everything, moving into farmlands, cultivating the farmlands. You see, when the cocoa industry goes to the western region, when you talk about western region, you talk about Takwa area, you talk about Opon Valley, Huni Valley, Prestia, Bordier, Asankregwa, Mansoa Memfi, Enchi, Samraboy, all these places, all the way to western north now. When you got there, almost every ethnic group in Ghana was involved in cocoa farming. My father's farm shared a boundary with a Mr. Lai, or Penin Lai, a Ghana who was a cocoa farmer. An Ashanti man, or Penin Buamono, from Jumakase Kese, was there. But so did I have Openia Nancy from Gumwa Fete, who was also a cocoa farmer. Openia Beka, also a cocoa farmer. So that enterprise brought people, and then you have people from the north who also first came as sharecroppers, and then they began to also establish their own farms. So when you talk about that, That drives my vision of what we can do to change the course of history of this country. These individuals, little or no education. I talk about a certain man called Penianto from Kumawu in Ashanti region. He became an upper middle class man, a cocoa farmer, who made it big and bought a fleet of vehicles for passenger purposes from Kumawu to Kumasi. And at the back of each one of these guys, he wrote, "Oh yes." Probably these were the only two words he knew in the English language, but "oh yes" had made it big time. So individual prosperity drives national prosperity. So when you talk about your economic philosophy, in my opinion, it should be about how do I get individuals to prosper in this country? How do I lift people out of poverty? When the focus is on building a middle class, building a group of people who will prosper, then their prosperity is what lifts the nation. But invariably, when we talk about economic development and transformation, people are talking about GDP, per capita income, talking about from top to bottom. We don't do the bottom-up approach.
So what is your biggest priority? What will be your signature if you are voted to be president, for example?
I want my legacy to be that under the leadership of Dr. Adutwum, if MPP gives me a chance and the Ghanaian people give me a chance, that we wage war against poverty and we won that war. Why is that so critical? Other nations that we started with, poverty is no longer there. You look at South Korea. The fascinating story about South Korea was when I met a group of South Koreans from the Exim Bank and from the Embassy of South Korea here in Ghana about 7 years ago. We were meeting them to look at how they can support us to build a university in Ghana. In fact, they gave us the money eventually. That's what is building the University of Engineering and Agricultural Science at Bunso. At that meeting, they showed us a PowerPoint presentation. The first graph that they showed was about the per capita income of South Korea and Ghana in 1960. We had a higher per capita income than them. If I'm not mistaken, it was about $179 per capita for Ghana, and theirs was $154. Then the next thing that they showed, and they asked us a very simple question. It was an interesting story. They asked us, and then they showed us their per capita income then in their country, over $90,000. And ours was below $3,000. Then they asked us in the room, why do you guys think we are now richer than you? For somebody to come from his country to yours and ask you, why have I done better than you? The room was quiet. We're scratching our head. And then they said, okay, let's look at the next graph. The next graph was gross tertiary enrollment ratio of South Korea and Ghana. At that time, they were about 96% gross tertiary enrollment ratio, which is literally everybody who has to be in tertiary was in tertiary or has some form of tertiary enrollment. And Ghana at that time was 16%, thereabouts. And they said, we are here to support you in building a relevant university that will be of great benefit to your country, an engineering university, because there's no other way than to improve your tertiary education metrics. If you don't improve this, and not just in the tertiary education, if you don't move into STEM, you will never be like us. We are here to help you. I left that room and I said to myself, I don't want my grandson or great-grandson to sit in another meeting years down the line with South Koreans with this question posed to them. We have to do something different. We have to do what they did to bring about their transformation. But nothing moves people to transform their future than when they know that their individual prosperity is what is going to drive their nation.
So the individual prosperity you talk about will come from what? Being educated?
You can be a farmer. Cocoa farmers did it. So you can build a robust middle class through agriculture, through education, through different aspects, through those people who are trading in the marketplace. I always say that if you have a prosperity center, a place that a person can walk in and say, today, things are difficult, or the business that I'm doing now, I want to see prosperity. How can you help me? A government entity that supports people to prosper.
Support with funding or what? Support with funding or what?
Funding, everything, knowledge, ideas. Sometimes helping the person craft his business plan. I always talk about the fact that people may not succeed, not because they don't have the raw talent, they have it, but who directs them, who guides them, who supports them, who says that you want to establish a plumbing company. This is how you can do it. This is how you register. This is how we can support you. You can go to KTR, for example. There are plumbers there that you can recruit. Somebody to guide in the process when somebody is determined to become successful. Where do they go to in this country? If somebody wants to do something so bad, what is one office that they can walk into and say, I want to do this. Can I be helped? So my vision...
We have the business advisory centers at all the assemblies.
You see?
That's what they do.
Business advisory centers. If you ask anybody on the street now and say, that, do you know a place you can go to? The information may probably not be there. But the most critical thing is that when you talk about a prosperity center, it rings a bell in the mind of the person. I want to be successful. There's a place I can go to. So you can rechristen whatever you want to do. My vision is that people need to know that there's a place I can go to. Somebody is willing to help me. I always talk about, and I was meeting a group of businessmen and women in Kumasi, especially the traders. And there were some who were complaining bitterly about visits from GRA, which is uncomfortable for them. Because they can sometimes you can lock your store. And when they are not there, you can't start. They come, they open, and they sit there to record all your transactions so that you can pay the appropriate taxes. I'm not against people paying appropriate taxes, but I also believe that at my first encounter, the first encounter of businessmen and government should be about, Mami Akusua Menu, we are here to observe your business. Is there anything we can help you so that your business will prosper? Your business will do well. What are you trading in? Where are you sourcing your products from? Maybe if you were to get it from this country, our research tells us that it's cheaper this way. That woman is a happy taxpayer because you are helping that person to prosper. But when the focus on the first encounter is about strict enforcement, of course, people need, without taxes, won't survive.
Okay.
But is there a support, business advisory center, is there support for these individuals who are doing their businesses? Are people going there to sit down with them and say, we can support you, there are opportunities for you? For all you know, there's opportunities sitting here, and that woman is sitting there. And the gap between the two of them is the reason why that business is not prospering. So my philosophy in terms of economic transformation is about creating a robust middle class through different pathways, whether it's through farming, whether it's through business development, through education. But if you're going to do the education pathway, as I speak with you, we have graduates who are unemployed. They may have done courses for which jobs may not be readily available, but we can also do graduate retraining. But you cannot do graduate retraining if you don't have a manpower needs assessment that tells you these jobs are available in country, outside country, and if the expertise are there, they will secure jobs. I know I've added a few things from the first question, but my whole thing is to let people know that the economic development of individuals drives the economic development of our nation. And if we don't focus on those individuals, the transformation will not come the way we want it to come.
You talk more about STEM.
Yes.
Do you see government doing enough to lay the ground for the STEM takeover? You did quite a number of projects, but do you see that is this government is so much committed to that area?
I'll tell you one thing. I've looked at how other nations have prospered, and none of them were able to dispense with STEM. They laid the foundation of their transformation through STEM. Then Champagne, late 1970s. When we say late 1970s, for those of us who grew up in the Rawlings time, is the Rawlings era, the beginning of Rawlings regime, and then went to Lehman. Those days were the days when China started its transformation. Their president had traveled to Japan, saw the Japanese transformation, went back to China, and then began the transformation, which has taken about 50 years, and they are totally transformed. China is now way out there. And China couldn't have done what it did without STEM education. See, first of all, he realizes that their teaching of mathematics was weak. Therefore, they sent teachers to Japan, to UK, to US to learn how to teach mathematics properly. Those teachers came back, and then they changed the period of time that they used in teaching science. So junior high schools and high schools, science teaching was reinforced. And then the interesting thing about the whole thing was when they set a goal to produce 50,000 engineers a year in China. Why were they doing that? Their manpower needs assessment was telling them that it was a shortage area. But they couldn't have talked about building a pool of engineers without STEM education. So they laid the foundation. They did teacher retraining in mathematics, then set a goal for 50,000 engineers. And then why engineers? They were using that as a leverage to sell China to the outside world, to let the outside world know that when you come here, you don't have to import skilled labor in the form of engineers for your factory to work. So now China was able to convince companies around the world that we have the engineers you need. Come, locate here. We have cheap labor. Come, take advantage of it. Build the factories here. Send the products back to your home countries to sell. Companies responded. Cheaper cost of operation. Factories were built. Engineers were there. For every one engineer, you are creating unskilled labor pool. And then people started coming from the villages in China, coming to urban centers to secure opportunities. The 50,000 was not enough. They decided that they would rather do 200,000 engineers a year. China's transformation was coming. More companies were flocking there. Foreign direct investment was growing. The Chinese government then began to invest in these companies. And then they set the next goal of ensuring that they had 800,000 engineers a year. And the fascinating story is that the economic boom then starts. The infrastructure development then starts. Everything about China was changing. China's transformation, like a speed of light, is something that has not been witnessed in many places where they have seen transformation. Things begin to shift rapidly. So you look at the case of Singapore, STEM education, South Korea, STEM education, TVET, all mixed together. And then that undergird the whole industrial expansion. You can't talk about, I want to set up factories, but you are bringing skilled labor from India to come and fix your machines. There are a number of companies here, when their machine is not working, somebody has to be flown in. My brother.
So you think STEM is how we correct
the foundation of major industrialization. And now, one big advantage of STEM is that India has used a different model. In addition to industrialization, they have used IT, information technology, for their development. They set up Indian Institute of Technologies, IITs. And their skills are in high demand around the world. To be frank with you, or as a matter of fact, Indian students who don't get accepted into IITs are the ones who accept to go to US, MIT, and Cornell. They are the ones who are running the world's IT infrastructure. The IT architecture is being manned by Indians from around, in many countries around the world.
So what do you want us to do?
what I want us to do is look at STEM not as an end in itself, but look at STEM as a means to an end. It is when people will begin to take a serious look at it, the sense of urgency will be created for our nation and will be created for our political establishment so that people don't dispense with it, people don't treat it lightly. You see, if you look at the number of jobs in the IT field that are created by the Indian IT hubs, you take STEM education seriously. So STEM is a means to an end. Industrial expansion, IT infrastructure, and job creation. If you want to create a golden age of jobs, as I want to do, you cannot ignore information technology, which is part of the big STEM agenda. Why do I say that? A number of companies in the world, now recently Amazon, who was going to hire 600,000 workers within 5 years, decided that they were no longer going to hire people, they will use robots. What does that mean? It means that the only people that they will need to hire will be engineers, computer engineers. What it means is that we now have to reassess areas for job creation. If you're talking about, I want to build factories, and that is how I create jobs in my country, most of these factories are being automated. Some of them, printing firms are now using robots. So the pathway to job creation is more of the IT. If you want to do millions of jobs, you get it done through IT, and those who cannot secure jobs in Ghana can secure jobs working for other companies remotely. Cybersecurity, in the US, they need 500,000 workers, and most of them are not coming from US. In fact, those they are trained in the US are high school graduates. In cybersecurity, you don't have to be a university graduate to be trained to get into it. They are hiring people from India, and those people are staying in their home countries, and they are working remotely.
So you're saying
the world of work is changing.
So you're saying that President Adutwum will focus on IT to deliver the growth that we want in Ghana?
The STEM education, IT is part of the mix of the STEM education. But what I'm saying is that we have to look at jobs that we can create in the IT field. Because IT, short term, how many? And that is why, God willing, you're going to see my discussion focusing more on job creation. And you're going to see me talk about information technology because of the growth in that area. But you are going to see that if you don't start the foundation from early ages and begin to nurture the minds of the next generation of Ghanaians, you will not be able to get the critical mass with that kind of expertise that can grow the job. So what you do is that you do your manpower needs assessment. The first thing I would do your manpower needs assessment.
That would
determine that there's a shortage in this area. There are excess, let's say, in human resource. Then that influences your tertiary education reform agenda. Because it tells you that universities must shift in this direction. And not just a talk. Because you see, most of the time...
But as you preach them, do you see government doing it?
Let me tell you something. I want to create a sense of urgency. When there's a sense of urgency, people will do it. Why do I say that? Invariably, no government wants to fail. No government wants to fail. It's people. From the time of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, great job was done. Buzia, short period of time, he did some work. Even military governments, Kufuor, you talk about Free Fire, you talk about Champon, they did their very best. Rawlings, and moving on to civilian regime, President Kufuor, and every one of them, President Mills, President Mahama I, to Akufo-Addo. Every government wanted to see the transformation of their nation. But I believe in one thing. The sense of urgency you bring to this in terms of your focus determines also your achievements. If you want to stick with what you know and what you promise in your manifesto, the major issue you have is that did what you promised in the manifesto aligned with how other countries transformed their fortunes? I believe in STEM, because that is how most of these countries whose transformation has been very rapid, that's how they build their foundation.
Okay.
So I just want to finish the thought on the universities. You see, invariably we talk about the university should be doing this, they should be doing that. But in other places where I've lived and worked, in the United States of America, where I was able to build schools, most of these things are through grants that the universities can apply for. If you want more computer engineers, your manpower needs assessment say you want more computer engineers. You have to create an opportunity for the universities to educate more people in that area by allocating resources. And you can even make it a grant. They have to apply. Universities that want to produce computer engineers, that want to produce experts in artificial intelligence, there's money set aside. You apply, we have a timeline, we have the number of people that we need. If you want to enroll 1,000 students within a period of time, this is money available. So if you don't allow resources to drive where you want the country to go, you can sit on your high horse and talk as the minister, as the president, and the universities are saying, yeah, we could do it.
Okay.
But where is the resource? So there has to be a resource matching the vision of transformation through grants, and that is what is done in most countries. When they want the university to change how they do things, they use grants. And there can also be times when sit down and say, this is our needs. We don't want the mismatch between what the universities are producing and what the country truly needs. So, but the labor needs assessment is your foundation for a dialogue, for incentive, for directive.
Okay. Now, let me bring you to the recent TUASI performance. Now, I listened to John Kapi, who says the chief examiner has opined that students showed shallowness in their answers in the exams. And of course, it came to me as presupposing that the students are suffering from less contact hours that they were supposed to. Is that not a symptom of the poor implementation of the free SHS program? You are the immediate past former education.
Let's take I want data to speak.
Okay.
Let's look at the performance from 2015. 2015. I want the other graph that shows the performance so that we can have, yes, we can have this. 2015, was there free senior high school?
There wasn't.
What is the English language?
45.2.
45.2. This is A1 to C6. We are not talking D7. 2015, was there free senior high school?
2016, there wasn't.
Integrated science.
Oh, okay, 2015. 28.7.
Okay. In 2015, there was no free senior high school. What was the math pass rate?
32.4.
When you see all the red, it means these are the times when the student did not achieve above 50% in the subject area. Then you move on to 2016. Was there free senior high school?
There wasn't.
Look at the performance. Compare 2015 to 2025, and they did better than even when in 2025 the nation, people are complaining, and rightly so. Look at the performance. English language, 2015 was what? 45.2. 2025 is what? 69. Integrated science, 28. 2025 is what? 57. Maths, 32. 2025 is what? 48.
And what source is this?
Oh, WAEC.
It's WAEC from WAEC. Okay.
WAEC. So, my brother, look at those who talk about free senior high school. Look at 2020, when the first batch of free senior high school students started graduating. What do you see?
57, 52, 65, 64.
Do you see any red?
No.
Everything. But look at 2022. Everything was about 60%, which tells you about 60% of our students will qualify to go to university.
Yeah.
Look at 2023. So, my brother, you can't scapegoat free senior high school for this performance because 2015, there was no free senior high school and they failed. The failure rate in 2015, 2014 was unbelievable.
So what is the underlying factor?
You see, that is what, unfortunately, the current government, when they were in government, they did not look at what we were doing. I mean, rightly so, they were interested in opposition and everything was about opposition. You see, the sad story is that 2014, 2015, this government saw that they had a challenge with secondary education. They went to the World Bank and got funding from the World Bank to begin secondary education improvement project.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. And they began some good work. The goal was to build 21 new schools and then improve performance in 125 low-performing senior high schools in the country. This government. We inherited it and actually went for additional financing to continue that work. To the extent that we went around the country, selected top-class teachers, and videotaped them, their instruction. So at Chimota, Presec, and Augustins, you find a teacher who is great, and his test scores are great. You go and you videotape his class. A private company was doing that, videotaping these classes. And knowing that in these low-performing schools, invariably there was no internet connectivity, we created something called the iBox, a computer that emits Wi-Fi in the local area. What does that mean? You put all the videotapes that the Presec teacher has been recorded doing on this machine. Then if you have a phone, you can go into that machine and see the video. Then in the school, for the students, we created computer labs with projectors. So when they go into that computer labs, they can see the video of the Presec teacher.
And the purpose was?
The purpose was for them to have quality instruction, because in those low-performing schools, what we recognize is that most of the teachers were not experienced. You see, in Ghana, the top-performing teachers are in your Category A schools. They have accommodation. They attract those teachers to go there. So if you want to enable schools, the 125 schools where their test scores was poor, to improve, you want these students to be literally taught by the Presec teacher without the Presec teacher being there on their campus. So this strategy, and then in addition to that, then teacher training, so that the less experienced teachers will be trained to do better. So we had a program.
But are you saying that this government, within 10 months, has not been able to do that?
No. The point I'm making is that if they knew what had been done, they could have continued what we're doing. You see, I don't want to fault you and say, why didn't you do this? You probably didn't know. But I'm showing you what we did to bring about the improvement. The improvement that we chalked.
It wasn't about you buying past questions for the students.
What has past questions got to do with this? The past questions are sitting at the schools. Now, it's in the library. So 2025 students had access to the past questions. It's not past questions, it's question and answers. And they are there as I speak with you. So the 2025 students had access to that. So it's not about that. You see, that's what I'm saying. If you don't know what people did to bring about the improvement, and you minimize and trivialize it, this is what happens to you. If this government knows that the improvement that we did began with them, they borrowed money for it, and we continued, and the improvement came. The improvement came with free senior high school. There are many things that came to strengthen the secondary education improvement project. The secondary education improvement project, one of the goals was to ensure that children from deprived communities can go to senior high school, right? They even offer scholarships under that. Free senior high school came, so that scholarship was mute. Everybody was getting it. So the transition rate that the secondary education improvement project wanted to increase, that more students can go to secondary school, free senior high school came, and more students went. Then, critical things that were done, in addition to the starting of the secondary education improvement project, was the fact that we paid schools what we call intervention grant. Every year we're paying about 165 million to schools to do before school programs and have extra classes after school. Because free senior high school, parents were not required to pay. So recognize that if you don't pay for extra classes for the students, students are coming in, and if there are deficiencies, there was no way they can have the intervention. So we created a program called the Intervention Grant. We paid.
But have those things been stopped by this government?
Yes.
And they've allowed PTA to come in, so PTA can
no, but PTA is optional. But if you want something done, government fund it. So let me tell you one thing. There was something called performance contract. You see, I don't know of any job in the world where you can't hold your people to account and say, you are in a school. Let me tell you some interesting stuff.
But those performance contracts, they claim that because of that, the headmasters were allowing the teachers to assist the students.
No, but the performance contract also specified that if there are exam or practices in your school, you'll be held responsible as a headmaster. So why would you do that? Why would you do that? Especially when your job is not
But they've said they were doing it.
No, but why would you do that? Because you see, let me tell you, if I come to you and I say on this job, if you don't do this, I'll fire you. Then you may be compelled to do something unethical, right? It has nothing to do with you keeping your job as a headmaster. So why would any headmaster say that I want to put my job on the line by causing students to cheat? What is the point? Because the performance contract is not the reason why you hold your job or don't hold your job. It's to guide you to know that your students are not doing well. The data in your school shows that mathematics is weak. Headmaster, what are you going to do to improve the teaching of mathematics?
Okay.
Headmaster, how is your students going to do well in English? Because English, and sometimes, see, the fascinating story is when the Director General signs performance contract with me, which doesn't have anything to do with keeping his job or not keeping his job. Then he signs a performance contract with regional directors who are supposed to supervise senior high schools. And the regional directors then sign a direct contract with senior high school headmasters. So if the previous year there was more practice, it's part of the contract to say you do everything possible to ensure that there will be no more practice in your school.
Okay.
So the whole idea is that students are not doing well. Then we all agree that something went wrong here. How do we avoid it next year? So if students were caught cheating in your school, as part of the contract, you are going to ensure that there is no more practice.
Okay.
Then we move on to one critical thing that we did was that we got examiners to go around the country and train subject area teachers. So mathematics examiners will go to Kumasi and be there for about a week or two, training mathematics teachers, showing them areas where students didn't do well, using the chief examiner's report. This was routinely done.
You're saying it has been stopped?
Yes.
Within this short time? It wouldn't have this impact. These are
why would it not have that impact? You're talking about how you suppose students to succeed. If teachers are doing extra classes for students and you stop it, you say it won't have the impact. If teachers,
that you say that the little contact hours they had is not to be blamed for this.
Of course not. Let me tell you. Some people really look at double track. Double track is one of the secrets to our successes here.
Okay. Our time is up, unfortunately. But 31st January is around the corner. What are you telling your delegates?
I'm telling delegates that Dr. Adutwum has a profound vision for transformation of this country. But of course, you are the ones who will give me the chance to move to the next leg of the whole process. For Ghanaians to have a choice of an individual who's working in the United States of America, building schools, they're raising funds on Wall Street, and coming back to Ghana to help transformation of schools, STEM schools, all the schools that we built in Accra, in other places around the country, commissioning 80 schools one day. It's a testament to the fact that Dr. Adutwum will be somebody who can lead the course of history, change the course of history of this country. I believe in great ideas, great vision, transformation, and transformation will be possible. Delegates, give me a chance. Give me a chance. You will never regret. You see transformation in this country. Dr.
Yaw Osei Adutwum, grateful to you.
Your time was too short.
I'm sure we'll have another encounter before the day. But which number are you on the ballot?
Number 4.
Are you on number 4?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We'll take a break here. We'll be back with more. Remember, we have a chat with the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority here on the show. Don't go away. Do stay with us.